All right, fellas, we are back with another video in our spread option series coming to you out of the UCF playbook. But again, these principles can be applied to really any of the spread option playbooks that we looked at in the first chapter of the video. This video is all focused on what are called relief or constraint plays. So you're really looking at plays that allow you to get back to running your base runs that we looked at in chapter 1. The first restraint play we've already looked at out of our spread flex. It's really a read option. So one of the first things defenses will do, as we've looked at before, when you come out and you're running the ball and your base runs, is put an extra guy in the box. So they'll come down with either another linebacker and blitz him, a cover 1 or a cover 3. But now if you look at this, we've got more defenders in the box than we have blockers. So you've got your 4 down linemen, your 2 linebackers in the middle. So you're playing 5-on-6. So your first constraint play is your read option play. So again, we're reading that defensive end. And depending on what he does, that's going to tell us whether we're handing off or running with the quarterback. That's the first relief that allows us to still run our base play without making any major changes. So we're reading this defensive end. He crashes down. We take off for the run. Pretty simple. We looked at that one already. Our next relief play out of spread flex is the RPO read screen. So RPOs are a great relief play, especially if they have a read component. So we look at this one in the play art. Now we're introducing a bubble screen from our slot receiver over their Y, but we're also going to be reading that defensive end. So we could either run our regular read option and ignore the bubble screen if we wanted to, and still run our relief play. But for this example, let's focus on the bubble screen. Again, what we're trying to do is pull defenders out of the box so that we can get back to running our inside zone, our halfback base, and our read option. So what we're doing, we're reading the cornerback over Y. If he goes with the slot receiver, then we move on to our read play. If he doesn't cover the slot receiver, then we go ahead, hit Y, and get that bubble out. He kind of played it in the middle, so that's really a decision point. Run this one more time. Again, he stayed home. We can hand the ball off. And now we're back to our base run, right? But what we've done is occupy that defensive end with a read, and we've occupied that slot cornerback over there, allowing us to do what we need to do. Here he went inside again, so we can throw out our bubble, get upfield, and make a play. So outside zone is a great constraint play, in particular if they're crashing down their linebackers or their linemen. They've got everybody inside. And actually switch sides on this one. This gives us an even better angle to the outside. And now we can get out and get moving. Our next constraint play out of the spread flex is going to be the jet touch pass. Again, defenses like to pinch their line down, pitch their linebackers down, right? Because we've been hitting them with inside zone and halfback base. And so the jet pass is really a great play to take advantage of a defense that's crashing their linebackers or their defensive ends down. And this is designed for our slot receiver to take the ball and get outside. So they're crashed down in there, and that gets us out to the races. So both of these plays, the read bubble and the jet touch pass, are great plays to have. If you're going to run the spread option offense, I would definitely have these 2 plays as audibles. That will allow you to take advantage of a defense that's being super aggressive or overplaying your inside zone. And so that gives us a relief to get back to running our inside zone. Once we hit them with a constraint play a couple of times, then we can get back to running our inside zone and our halfback case. Another constraint play out of the spread flex, as you can see here, is the motion wide receiver option. This is actually a triple option play. This was made really famous by Rich Rodriguez at West Virginia, but then it was adopted by a number of others. And so this operates exactly like that read option that was in our base plays, with the added benefit of this slot wide receiver number 8. You can see he's going to motion behind our quarterback and gives us a pitch man. And so if the defense starts putting more men in the box, which they're going to want to do, which they're going to start doing, we need a play to take care of that extra man that they have. They may start blitzing that slot cornerback who's over our number wide. They'll start doing all types of things to try to shut down our base plays. And so this motion wide receiver option is one of the things that we can do. So we're reading this defensive end. If he crashes, we're going to pull and then get it out to our wide receiver. Not great stick skills by me. Let's see if we can run this again and have him stay. Here he comes down. That defensive end holds. We can get outside and run with our quarterback in this case. So that's a great restraint play. Again, you don't want to run these plays to start the game. These really aren't drive starters unless the defense is already smashing everybody inside. So if they come out already and they've got their linebackers inside and they've brought, say, this guy inside with their user to try to take advantage, then we may want to start with that. But really, this is a reaction to what the defense is doing. They start playing like this, we don't want them to do that, then we would get it out to our wide receivers and get moving. So our next restraint play or our relief play is going to be out of the spread Y flex. And it is down here, RPO read bubble. So it's set up exactly like that read screen that we saw before. So you can see we're going to be reading that defensive end, but then we have a bubble screen off to the left, right? And so if we read that defensive end, he crashes down, but then that cornerback comes, then we're going to hit Y and pitch it out to our line. So we read this the exact same way. Here he came. You see he's following that slot, so we can take off with our quarterback. Sometimes what you'll see is this slot cornerback is pulled inside and there's no one over that slot wide receiver. And in that case, that's an automatic. Snap the ball and throw it. You know, we've got our lead blocker out here, and we're off to the races. Another restraint play out of the spread Y flex is actually down here, the motion RPO read flat. Again, we're not going to be starting with this play, but once we've run these plays enough and they start bringing extra guys in the box, as you can see, we've got 6 guys in the box, and it may be 3rd and 5, not a play we necessarily want to run the ball. And so RPO read flat. As you can see, our wide receiver on the right is going to motion over and then go out into the flat. And all we're doing is reading if anybody goes with us. We're reading that defensive end. And then we're reading really the nickel corner over Y to see if anybody goes with him. If he doesn't, then we flip it out to our receiver. And we're off to the races. Again, that's designed really to get wide when they've got a lot of defenders in the box. We could run it, though, as a regular read play. As you can see up here, we can read him, pull it, and then get off and throw the ball if we need to. There's really a lot of options on that RPO read flat that would allow us to relieve our offense. So, again, we can get back to running our base plays. Let's take a look at some relief plays out of our doubles formation. So doubles offset weak has some really good ones. You can see this glance bubble. This is really going to give us a couple of options. So as you can see, we've got a post route over on the right side. We really don't run that a lot. That's really if they're pressed. So if that cornerback was pressed, let me set that up. You can see that cornerback is pressed. This is really the only time we think about running that post route. It's a really dangerous play, and we need to be reading that second level linebacker to see what he does. If he crashes down toward the line, then we can attempt to throw. See, he did not crash, and so we're handing the ball off. In most cases, you're not going to be making that throw out of this. You're really looking at the bubble over here. And there is no read on this play, so all you're reading is, does that nickel corner go with the wide receiver or not? So if the nickel corner chases our slot receiver, we just hand the ball off and start running. If he crashes down toward our running back, then we're going to hit Y. You can see he crashes down or stayed flat. We throw the bubble and get moving. Let's run it again, see what he does. Again, he stayed flat, and we throw the bubble off to our receiver. If he were to attack that slot wide receiver, then we would hand the ball off and continue running our normal offense. Our next constraint play out of the double offset week, we've got the alert bubble and the read bubble. These act exactly how we saw them in the spread sets. So again, we can read this defensive end. Now instead of a post, we've got a curl route out there. Again, that's a much riskier throw to make. You're having to read multiple defenders. I would just focus, if you're a beginner, on the left side of the screen. And again, we're reading that defensive end. Does he crash? He stayed home. But that slot receiver was left, so we were able to throw that bubble screen out. Again, we're going to read. He crashes down. Again, we're going to read. He crashed down, so we can take off with our quarterback. Let's keep it moving to our alert bubble. This acts exactly like the read bubble, except there's no other read. You're only either handing the ball off or throwing that bubble. So in this case, we're not reading the defensive end at all. Skip him and go straight to the cornerback over our slot receiver. See what he does. Does he crash toward our running back? In this case, he stayed flat. Come through our bubble and get moving. There he stands again. We throw our bubble and keep moving. You may just not like the look, or if they have, they've pulled one of these linemen out of the box, right? You may get this sometimes, and now we're back to having 5-on-5. In that case, we want to hand this ball off and start running downhill. So it's really playing off what the defense does. Whatever the defense does, we try to have an answer for it in the offense. Lastly, what you'll see out of doubles offset is the same RPO read flag that was in the spread flex, except we're now in our double set. Again, this was done intentionally so you guys aren't having to learn a bunch of new plays, but you can give the defense a different look and then run the same play. So again, we're moving him out. We're seeing what that slot cornerback does. Nobody guarded him. We get it out to our wide receiver and get moving. Once you run enough of those restraint plays or those relief plays, don't forget to come back to your base. So once you've moved those linemen back out, don't get caught up on just running your constraint or your relief plays over and over again. Always make sure you're coming back and running your inside zone and get back to your base. Again, we want to be running our base plays as much as possible. Our constraint plays or our relief plays are really allowing us to run these plays when the defense adjusts to what we're doing. So always make sure we get back to running our base plays. And then once the defense adjusts to that, we go right back to our relief plays. Thanks guys for watching. I'll be back with another chapter.